Yeah, so today I thought I'll start with sharing this poem again, a translation by Rabindranath Tagore ji, one of the songs by Kabir. Here. So I'll just read out the translation and then we will just take a moment and uh, reflect, take time to reflect upon it. It's a little long, so it goes in 2 pages actually. Okay. So I'll just read this out. Lamps burn in every house, O blind one, and you cannot see them. One day your eyes shall suddenly be opened, and you shall see, and the fetters of death will fall from you. There is nothing to say or to hear, there is nothing to do. It is he who is living, yet dead, who shall never die again. Because he lives in solitude, therefore, the yogi says that his home is far away. Your Lord is near, yet you are climbing the palm tree to seek him. The Brahman priest goes from house to house and initiates people into faith. Alas, the true fountain of life is besides you, and you have set up a stone to worship. Kabir says, I may never express how sweet my Lord is. Yoga and the telling of beads, virtue and vice, these are not to him. So let us take a few moments and reflect upon these lines. I'll just scroll down. First, we'll keep it on the first page, and in some time, I'll scroll to the next page. And after a pause, we can share our reflections. So I have in the chat window, I have pasted the Hindi one. If those of us who want to have a look. Yeah, so whenever anyone feels ready to share any reflections coming up, please feel free to unmute. I'll just put it on the first page now. We can also do it in parts, like maybe the first part and then.
Monica ji, I'm new to Kabir actually. Only through you now I'm starting to. So is he talking about the soul when he says there's no death or life, or have I completely not got it?
Yeah, I think we are just here sharing whatever resonates with you, Geeta ji. So let's hear from others first.
Okay.
And you share, maybe there are a few lines which directly hit at you, maybe others you don't directly get it, and that's completely fine. So if you feel that he's hinting at the soul within and without,
yeah.
Which never dies and is unborn, maybe it's that. And let us hear from others also. You please go ahead and share your further reflections.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can offer some of the things that struck me. So that first line, yes, lamps burn in every house, O blind one, and you cannot see them, I feel is referring to this innate divinity that is in all of us. And one day your eyes shall suddenly be opened and you shall see. So it's this journey of awakening to this essential divinity inside, I feel. And those up to this point, it also, this morning I happened to be reading, for whoever is familiar with Savitri, I was reading in the beginning, The Secret Knowledge. It's quite near the beginning. And it seems to echo there as well, this pointing out of what is within us, and one day we awaken to that. And the fetters of death will fall from you. And I'm feeling like the fetters of death here is when perhaps all of us, those times when I feel I'm so far from God, or I don't feel the presence of the divine or anything taking care of me, and feel very dead to a certain extent, yes, and alone with whatever life is presenting, or somehow cut off. So I think once I become aware of the divinity, then there's this promise that this feeling of fetters, like being imprisoned by death or by feeling so cut off, will no longer be there. And there'll be this awareness of something with me, supporting me within and without. I thought this is also interesting to me because he lives in solitude further down. Therefore, the yogi says that his home is far away. And I find that curious. It's like, oh, is he saying, that the divine God lives in solitude, or whether he's referring to himself, Kabir, as the third person? So it just left me with like a sense of, okay, it's like if Kabir is saying like when I feel I'm in solitude, then I feel, I'm not sure. I'm a bit confused by those lines actually. Perhaps just from being cut off from God, that's why the solitude, and therefore then you feel that your spiritual home is very far away, or one feels like it's a very, very long journey, yet he's saying your Lord is near. So it's just reassuring that, again, the divinity the divine is right here, right now, within, is very near. And still, we feel we have to jump a lot of hoops or get a lot of complicated techniques to be near. I feel like this climb the palm tree is like, it's not so easy. You know, the trunk of a palm tree is thin and there's no branches and it's not the easiest tree to climb. So it's like that. We feel like even though the Lord is near, we have to do a lot of things, complicated things to get there. And maybe, Monica, I liked your idea of doing it in two halves. Maybe I should stop there and then I don't know. Stop it.
We can do that. Yeah. It'll be easier for us to then look at the lines also. Beautiful. Yeah. I think there is also this pointer to always, Kabir, in Kabir's times, he has been very almost sarcastic about all these rituals being followed, कि ये जो मुल्ला जा जाके घर पे बांग दे रहा है, the मस्जिद के ऊपर चीख रहे हो. So he has always talked about that in his couplets in this or the other manner, that he's here, right here, and you think that after doing these rituals, you will find him. So who are you fooling? Again and again, many, many couplets and songs, he has said that. And that I feel that yogi line is also a pointer there to the life of an ascetic. That if I go to a forest and live alone for some time, there also again he cuts on in one of the bhajans where he says, "Ban mein lut gaya munijan nanga, das gayi mamta ulta tanga." So even when you are doing all kind of ascetic practices alone in the forest, there also you are totally attached. Your mind is there still with you, with your own rituals and practices. So yeah, I'm sure others will also reflect upon it. So let's continue. Thank you, Swapna, for sharing. Yeah, anyone who wants to share next, please unmute and go ahead.
Monica, I think seems to be there are three strands going through the poem. One is he's talking about the fetters of death, which is basically, I think it is the fear of death that he's talking about, which is the biggest fear that humankind normally has. It is innate in everybody. So I think that he's talking about that at one point. Then he's talking about, as you rightly said, about his, I won't say contempt, but he's scornfully talking about the ritualistic approach that people seem to take to find something that is actually inside and not outside. And in doing that, this interesting line of solitude is, I think I'm in solitude and say my home is far away, as Sapna was saying, that he thinks I have to take a long journey without realizing that it is already within me. And that's why he's also saying that there is no death. I mean, at one point he's saying, I forget the exact, there's nothing to say, it is he who is living yet dead, who shall never die again. So that's talking about the eternity, as somebody was originally saying, asking about the soul. So there is no depth in that sense, as Bhagavad Gita also says. So he's referring to that to my mind. So there are three levels. One is he's addressing the fear of death. Second is talking about the rituals, which he doesn't see as doing anything good to anybody. And third, he's talking about this whole thing being futile because you're searching for something which is inside you and without realizing that it is inside. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uniji. Yeah, Taru, you wanted to share? You want to go next?
Yeah. So lamps burn in every house, O blind one, and you cannot see them. Now, when I look at houses, I just see bricks. I see, how beautiful they are, the marble, the colors. Like all I see is the material, right? And I don't see the life living inside them. So like this could be a house, this could be, of course, a person's human body, right? Like I just look at bodies. I look at, how the nose is, how the eyes are, how they are outside. And I don't see that lamps, like the divinity within, like somebody said, the soul, the divine in me, the one that's lighting the house, is burning in every house. And I cannot see that. Because otherwise I think if I could see that, there would not be these conflicts and these differences and these religions and these divisions, because if I could see the oneness in me and in the other houses, it would make things so easy. So one day your eyes shall suddenly be opened and you shall see, and the fetters of death will fall from you. Like right now, I feel that I'm just a body, right? I'm just a house, and I'm scared that, one day the house will fall, and I do everything in my capacity to protect it, right? That's one of the latent fears we have, right? Like the fear of death, that they say is one of the strongest fears, especially that a body has. And a lot of what we do is guided by that fear, right? To save myself. So one day when I'll see that the same lamp is burning in all the houses, so then the body doesn't matter, right? Like I will not diminish when this house will fall. So one day when my eyes will be open, I will be able to see. And then when I see that oneness, that lamp in all the houses, and the houses mean everything, right? They say kan kan me ram, right? Not just people. So then the chains of death will fall from me. There is nothing to say or to hear. There's nothing to do. It is he who's living. I live in doership, right? Like I am doing, that is why I am alive. I think, therefore I am, all these things. So when I realize that the lamp is lighting the house, the God is lighting the house, it is he who's living. Yet, I don't know, this part confused me a bit. Yet dead, I felt it meant that for me, he's dead because I don't see it. And the light lives, it will never die, but die again, maybe if I'm missing something, must be. So, and this was my favorite line, because he lives in solitude. Therefore, the yogi says that his home is far away. I can be comfortable with everything except mostly sitting with myself, right? Like I just want to be outside. And, in the beginning also, when it says your eyes suddenly shall see, because my eyes have always looked outside. So they were never able to see the lamp inside. But when I live in solitude, as in with myself, but that is so difficult for me, right? Like we are always looking for, time pass, bore around, what to do, how to fill up my time, because somehow I am not enough for myself, right? In certain, I don't know if it's going there, but I am. So that's why the yogi says that for me, who doesn't want to sit with me, that house is far, his home is far, the God lives far, because I don't see him inside me. But he is near, and yet you are climbing the palm tree. Like, I'm always making effort. There's something in me which wants him to be far. I want it to be a catch and like easy. I might say I want simple, but if I look at my actions, I don't want simple. I want it to be a huge thing, and I want to read texts and, through, I don't like you were saying the rituals and everything. Somehow it makes it grander, right? It feels that I'm doing bigger, because in simplicity, I would not probably get any praise. I would not get any, I might even doubt myself that how, if it's so simple, can it be the truth? So yeah, I guess for this, that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tarun. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah, Sulakshana ji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, firstly, I love the way Taru expressed. Very, very well expressed. Thank you, Taru. And, because he lives in solitude, therefore the yogi says that his home is far away. Kabir, as far as my little knowledge goes from what I've read, was never a person who advocated living in solitude or living as an ascetic, going to forests. he always said, Kabira, Kabira khada bazaar mein mange sabki khair. It was in the midst of everything and everybody that he felt that, because he realized that the divine is within him. So there was no need to go anywhere. It's the yogis who go to forests, seek solitude, and yet feel that the home is far away. And it's in all that seeking, I think, that we turn blind and we cannot see the lamp in every house, the divine within each and every one of us, each and everything. I think that's what happens. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sulakshmi. Yeah, anyone who wants to share next? Chikki ji, if you're ready, Geeta ji, if you have anything, Gaurav. Yeah, anyone?
Little
Yes.
of what I'm now getting, I don't know if I'm still, because as I said, I'm new to him.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah, please.
Like they mentioned that, the divinity in you is the divinity in me, which we are not seeing. We are seeing for all the time, doing rituals, penance, this, that, reading, but actually it is there in every house and in everyone. And probably when you have that realization, your third eye shall open, I think, I don't know. And then you see the fetters of death will fall is what I am thinking could be, the division that you are you and I am I. So probably that disconnection, the disconnection from that is like a death, that the connection I may see with you, the divine in you is the divine in me. It's in every house and every action that we have. So probably the death would mean to me now is that could be that, the disconnection falls, the masks fall, and then we're all manifestation, and probably all of us together is the divine. And that death for me, I think, is that the disconnection from all the other parts of me has fallen, the veil has lifted, is what I'm getting as of now.
Thank you, Geeta ji. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else who wants to share anything? So in many couplets, Kabir has pointed out on the senses. And some of them, he also talks about senses being the enemies. And as I think one of you were pointing out, that we are outbound, like all the senses look outside. The eyes look outside, the fingers can touch something which appears to be different than me. I'll taste something which is separate than me. So all our senses are outbound senses. And since we have these senses, we try to seek that contentment that we are all seeking, that lasting happiness that we are all seeking through the senses. And we see that no matter how far I may go into my addiction of the senses, sense objects, I never actually have the lasting satisfaction. I may enjoy the addiction for some time, but then as soon as the object of sense pleasure goes away, I'm back to my incomplete self again. And I feel that I'm sure most of us will resonate that there is a purpose for which he has said that senses are your enemies. Be aware of them. In one of the couplets, he says that Kabir bairi sabal hai, ek jeev ripu panch. So he talks about the five senses as the ripus, the enemies. that the enemy is so strong that he has housed in your own home, living as your own self. So as long as I identify with my seeking of the senses, that yes, this is my desire, my ambition, I want it, as long as we have this identification with this seeking, according to the masters, will always be empty. Because senses, there is something beyond the senses, which is our truth, which is waiting to be revealed to us. And that is why I think Sulakshana ji was pointing on this seeking aspect. I think Geeta ji or Sulakshana ji was pointing out the seeking aspect. So as if there is this, one example that I use often is this: imagine that there is this absolute blue sky of awareness, blue sky of our true being, true essence, which masters have pointed at. Whenever a seeking is there, saying, I have yet not got it, I have yet not got it, what is it, what is it, when will I reach there? So this seeking, this sense of lack, which makes the seeking more strong, like a big cloud, that obscures the blue sky, as if the blue sky appears to be absent in that intense longing and seeking. And the moment I'm able to be without any seeking, even for a moment, even few moments, if I may touch, there I feel such a contentment in the being, as if nothing is to be really, no palm tree has to be traversed, or no other ritual has to be formed, because I am who I am. And yet it appears so simple when we talk about it, and we all know how much suffering we have to go through it, go for it, before we actually practically in our body have this realization, not only mentally and intellectually, but practically know that yes, I am that one which cannot die. And I think in this line where he was talking about fetters of death, it appears to me here that he's talking about the realization of self. Because when we practically realize who we truly are, there is a fearlessness that comes in the being. The fear of dying really, literally kind of sheds off from your shoulders. And until that has happened, there is a lot of work to be done. And even after that has happened, even after that, the transformation goes on. So that's why Mother, in one of her many texts, Mother says that the signal, the hint that you have touched your soul, the hint that you know who you truly are, is that you develop automatically this fearlessness. You know about your immortality, not only mentally and intellectually, but in your being, you know that you are forever here, you are unborn and undying. And after the body, it's not that you will die. So unless this has become our practical realization, not only mental theorizing, there is stuff to be found. Again, using the words of the Mother, she says that unless the soul has been found, it's a life half lived. It's as good as a dead life. And before that, we need a lot of yearning and seeking, because something is to be done. It's not that there is nothing to be done, because we are born in ignorance. We are born in ignorance, and our journey is from ignorance to light, awakening. Although there is nothing extra to be added on, but there are layers and layers of ignorance which has to be shed, like which have to be kind of shed apart, looked at and shed apart, looked at and shed apart. And that is why this process is called self-realization. So I just realize who I am immediately, as if the ignorance, the veils of ignorance are shed off, and I realize who I truly am. It's not called self-getting, as if you are getting yourself from somewhere. You are who you truly are. But since their ignorance and darkness is so thick that it takes almost lifetimes to have this realization truly that really I am this immortal, unborn, undying element, which Sri Krishna talks about in Gita, for example, which all the masters have talked about. Yes, Ram Prakash ji.
Yeah. Is it like where a cloud or dispersed sun shines forth? Not the sun was not there.
Absolutely.
obscure it. Can we say that?
Beautiful. I think beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And that is why we call it ignorance, as if I am ignoring. So imagine that there is sunlight and there is a thick wall of brick that I have made as my home. Okay, this is my home. Now, sun is, as Ram Prakash ji hinted at, the sun is there, but I am ignoring the sun. And that's why it has been called as ignorance. And masters have also used the other word, Maya, illusion, that I create such a big illusion in front of me that I obscure the divinity or the sun shining. Yes, Ram Prakash ji. Yeah.
Yeah, this ignorance, avidya, is beautifully defined as we are all subject to it. Good, evil is mistaken for good. Unreal is mistaken for real. And that which gives pain is mistaken for pleasure. Everything is seen in an inverted sense. That is defined as avidya.
So, do we see this lamp in us? Now, there is one part or one half where I may say that, yes, masters have said there is this lamp divinity in everyone. Har mein Paramatma ka ansh hai. And it is true. I have this belief that it is true. It's beautiful to start from there. But do I really see the lamp? Now, it's not that through this senses I may see a flame or something. Not talking about a vision of the senses. Just talking about this deep, practical, visceral experience of this lamp, the inner light, which you were talking of earlier, some of you. And unless I really, literally, practically see this lamp in me, it is not possible that I can see it in the other. And that's why they say charity begins at home. Although the inspiration may begin from the other, we may see somebody and we may get admired and, in inspirations looking at that person. And mother says that our journeys usually start like that maybe we are attracted to a person living his life beautifully, his inner lamps lit. And what in me is getting attracted to that light? So that light in me is the one only that is getting attracted to the light. So it's beauty both ways, that something in me recognizes my potential in the other being. And mother says that it's beautiful if you can have this admiration of beauty in nature or, whatever we look at, because that's where how our journey gets a propulsion. That if वहां हो सकता है वो, वहां happen हो सकता है, तो यहाँ क्यों नहीं हो सकता? There must be something here also which is beautiful and divine. And that is how, we get across these books and masters and even nature propels us towards this beauty, where we get into this admiration, silent admiration. And why would he call us the blind one? Because the way we are born with these outbound senses, that I'm always seeking externally. And that is why people talk about interning, the turning inwards of the senses. I think Geeta ji was mentioning opening of the third eye, and third eye has been, we link it to inner wisdom, opening up of the inner wisdom. That firstly, my senses were all looking outside. I was seeking for contentment and bliss outside. Now, suddenly the thing has turned within, the vision has turned within. And now I am open to more inner movements rather than all that is happening in external through the outbound senses.
Can I share
two
verses from the 15th chapter, which illustrates what you're saying? It says, the deluded do not see the spirit when it fitteth or remains in the body, nor when moved by the qualities it has experienced in the world. But those who have the eye of wisdom perceive it. And devotees who industriously strive to do so see dwelling in their own hearts, whilst those who have not overcome themselves, who are devoid of discrimination, see it not, even though they strive thereafter. So it's not easy. It's not easy.
I think we were also talking about effort, that he's saying, Kabir is saying that no need to put that much of effort that you are putting, but he's talking about rituals. And in ritual, what I do is that, okay, 30 minutes for my meditation and rest all the time I can do all the bullshit that I want to. So he's talking about those blind rituals that we follow and we think that that will make us realize the divine. While Kabir has also talked about your effort, how much the effort is actually necessary. Although to the sadhak on the path, he says, "Dheere dheere re mana, dheere sab kuch hoye, mali siche so gada, ritu aaye fal hoye." So for the sadhak on the path, for the traveler on the path, he is saying, be perseverant. Don't rush too much. You will get there in time. But to the people, to those of us who are still blinded by our senses, for them, he says, how long will you continue to sleep? Wake up right now. So he actually talks of effort in two different ways. At once, he says that, okay, keep on putting your effort, but don't be in a rush. And to other one, he says, get up urgently right now. So I think this paradox is also very beautiful because we may just look at it one way and we may think that, okay, there is nothing to be done, but there is lots and lots to be done there also. Yeah, Ram Prakash ji, please.
Saying that, see, the thing is a process begins with recognition of the truth of the self, as apart from the body or mind or emotions. Once that conviction grows, then one begins to think of it. And the teachers say, realization comes from dwelling upon the thing to be realized. There is constant thought in that direction, and our thinking and action in life should be from that basis. That's, as I say, it's not the self that acts, it's the agent, it's the lower egotistic self which is the actor, but the witness self is distinct and apart, and is universal, eternal, is in the heart of all, which means universal unity, universal brotherhood. If this truism becomes deeply rooted in us as an unshakable conviction, then that should gradually and slowly, life after life, it should lead to realization.
Yeah, thank you, Ram Prakash. I think that's why it appears to me that waking up to our truth or self, in so-called words, self-realization, I think this is not a luxury. It's not that only one or two yogis can claim it. I think it's a necessity of the hour if we want to have universal harmony and this unity that we talk of. Because if each one of us does not wake up to our truth, this harmony is here to stay, conflicts are here to stay, wars are here to stay. And that's why it's almost an urgency that we do what we are supposed to do as human beings. It's not that it's a luxury that, okay, if you want to, go get self-realized. And if you don't want, okay, don't bother. It's almost a social responsibility, the implications it has on our lifestyle and the way we interact in our relationship and at workplace, that it actually appears to be an urgency almost. Otherwise, it's just a torture that we inflict on ourselves and then also indirectly on others. And one of the couplets on the second lines, here Kabir says, one day your eyes shall be suddenly opened and you shall see the fetters of death will fall away from you. So again, I was talking about this, that in one of the couplets he says, Jab lag marne se dare, tab lag, just a second, I think I noted it down. I had noted it down for you. Yeah, jab lag marne se dare, tab lag premi nahi, badi dur hai prem ghar, samajh lena man mahi. So he says that as long as you are afraid to die, till that point, just remember that you have not touched the truth of your being. Badi dur hai prem ghar. And prem, when he talks about prem, this prem is that one he talks about, that it is here, right here. It is the essence of your truth. It is your own being, the being of love. So jab tak hame marne se dar lag raha hai, he says, tab tak ye samajh lena that you have still not touched your deeper truth. The realization has not happened. Samajh lena man mahe. So I think that also gives us a signal that the journey is a very, very long. I think Ram Prakash ji was hinting at it. It's a long journey. It's a long and arduous path. Easier said than done. And yet, I would say that even then, we must talk about it. And that's why importance of Satsangat has been given so much of importance by all the mystics, that if we do not talk about it, if we do not make it a daily matter of our life, then how would we liberate ourselves from the shackles of ignorance or avidya, what Ram Prakash ji was hinting at? Yeah, please.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with single step, and that single step we ought to take.
So the lines where he says, it is he who is living, yet dead, who shall never die again. Now, how we consider ourselves as alive is that I have desires, I have ambitions, I have greed, these are my wants, these are my expectations. And this is what we call as being alive. This is for us, being alive is. Again, if we talk about even, look at the words of Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, he says, play dead to your desire. Have you ever experimented playing dead with your desires? Now, our desires, according to us, keep us alive. While people have talked something different, they talk about playing dead to your desire. And I feel that there is a hint to that kind of a life here when he says, it is he who is living, yet dead. So I am playing dead to all my expectations, demands, cravings, restlessnesses. I am playing dead to it. And now if I touch this deeper self in me again, which is always awake, forever awake, and that is not dependent on my desires, ambitions, and expectations and demand. Now I know myself as that truth. He says, that one who shall never die again. So this identification with our immortal self, and it's a process. I think it's a gradual process that we have to disidentify. I think Ram Prakash ji just touched upon it, that disidentifying from the stream of thoughts, the ripple of emotions, the sense perceptions, and then identifying ourselves with this true essence within. First the neti neti and then iti iti. I think this identification with the one awake in me, which appears asleep. I think that is what here he points at, that agar marna hai, to jeene mein hi mar jao. While you are alive, you be dead, so that you don't have to take the birth again. Because according to Kabir, what takes birth is our own expectations, demands, and cravings and desires. They are the one which take a new birth again. Yes, Ram Prakash ji, you wanted to share.
Yeah, very nicely said. Once the deep-rooted conviction, the conviction grows deeper, and the truth of the self as a heart and all, when it grows and takes hold of your mind and soul, then naturally in the daily events and daily life, the things that you have to do in life, the duties that you have to perform, you naturally lose that personal attachment for outcome of your actions. you will not care whether what you do succeeds or what you do fails. I mean, there is a certain resignation enters the heart, and your aspiration and your inner focus shifts and becomes focused in the higher and the truer. So that means renunciation of the self without having to repair the Himalayas or the forests and the ashrams. Where you are as Kabir says in the fish market, you can practice this. So it is a moral, mental, and a spiritual inward effort, not in the outward practice like pranayama, yoga. It's not that at all.
So let us share our reflections on the last half, if we are ready for that. Those of us who feel ready to share reflections on this part, the last two. Alas, the true fountain of life is beside you, and you have set up a stone to worship. Kabir says, I may never express how sweet my Lord is. Yoga and telling of beads, virtue and vice, these are not to him. So anyone who feels ready.
That is very true. All this torturing the body, as Shankara says, all this pranayama practices, that torturing the nose, all that will not take you anywhere at all. Or beads, and it makes no effort. What is important is inward yearning and the inward aspiration to unite itself and disinterestedness in the outcome of your duties of life.
I don't know, again, Ramprakash, what you just shared, I feel it's like half truth there, because it's like, imagine that mind, for example, mind is a tool, just like a knife is a tool, mind is a tool. So I can use the knife for doing good work, or I can use the knife for killing people. Now, there is no problem with the tool per se. So I feel that we cannot completely negate the practical little importance of, for example, practices like pranayam, or maybe, things which are related to the body movement practices, or hatha yoga or ashtanga yoga, all kind of these yogas. So I think that it's not that we just have to shun them away, but the way we use it, as if this is the way through which I will find the divine. I think that is what is being hinted at. It's not to shun away the practice, but how we use the practice and make it as a ritual, while the rest of my life is completely, crowded with ignorance. So I thought I'll just add those lines, because it just kind of, by reverberating in me, that it's not that we just have to sit idle and don't indulge in any kind of practices which may be good for health, because without health you can not even have a contentment in the being. So health is absolutely important. I believe even the bodily health is very absolutely important when it comes to spiritual path, not only mental emotional well-being, but also the body fitness. So it appears to me that we don't need to shun it completely, although it's true that through these rituals, it appears that it's not that I will get there. Yeah, just wanted to kind of add on that dimension. Yeah, anyone who feels ready? Yes, Swapna.
Well, the other place I went with this, the true fountain of life is beside you, and you have set up a stone to worship. I mean, first I got the idea of deities in temples, right? The actual statues, everything from the Shiva Linga to any statue, and that one thinks that it's just there, right? If it's just in a statue, when you go to the temple. And then I went a little further away, making it, for me, also, you have set up a stone to worship is just about anything material, including relationships and people. So that instead of realizing that everything is within and that's what's truly meaningful, whenever ego, vital mind runs after some kind of career or home or family or anything on the outside, and then worships that, thinking that's going to make me happy, then I'll be fine, or I'll be whole, and I agree with you that at times it's a wonderful stepping stone to use a practice. I definitely know even, a couple of minutes of doing just one kind of pranayam can then settle my body, mind to go deeper into a deeper connection with the divine. So I do think to be fluid with it, not to make it rigid, but to know oneself well enough to know, okay, now is actually the time to use one of these other practices, whether it's hatha yoga or pranayam or sport or something, and to allow especially for me, the physical to begin the journey into to go within, to settle, to calm, to get still. I feel like it can be really, really valuable for me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Swapna. In Synthesis of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo has synthesized, all these aspects of different practices and tools and methods, and also given the partial truth they have for us, the partial practical use they have for us. So that's also beautiful for those of us who want to go ahead and have a curiosity to kind of learn and understand more. It will be actually very nice if we read what he has to say on this. Just adds on another dimension to our understanding. Yeah, anyone who feels like sharing anything on these lines?
Basically, it's suggesting that the ritual or the practice by itself is not the end. It must lead you to something that you're seeking. So we often forget that, and that's where the problem is. As long as the objective is clear, I think some sort of a seeking method will be necessary, because otherwise we would not reach anywhere, because unless you take a journey, start a journey, how do you reach the destination? So the journey, I may do yoga, somebody may do something else, some other practice, doesn't matter. But as long as I'm clear of the destination and the purpose, and that is the purpose for which this practice is being done, and keep attempting with that, I think that it is the practice without realizing why it's being done. That is what Kabir is hinting as not quite useful. Thank you.
I think that's really beautiful what you shared, Unija. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Actually, after some time, these practices become a burden of our head. So although I began to use those practices for being lighter and being more simple, and now those practices are running over my head and they have kind of stuck to my identity. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes,
Monica, something else I saw in this yoga and the telling of beads, virtue and vice, these are naught to him. I mean, this just adds another layer to what Oniji just shared. I was thinking it's sort of the telling of virtue and vice. It's like if I were just to say, you know, God, mother, oh, I did this wrong. These are my mistakes, or this is my darkness. And I just tell it, but I don't set it right. That I don't actually then live out the amended way or the better, higher way that is being indicated that I know within, then these are a naught to him. It's in the living out and not just naming it, but then once it's seen and the light shone on a dark spot, then actually living the light or living the higher way, the better way that's revealed. That's more meaningful. And that would be the opposite of the naught to him.
Beautiful. Yes. So let's take up a couple of couplets. I think we have 10-15 minutes more. Let's take a few couplets and then we can end after that. Just a second. Yeah. So wanted to share this, a few couplets. Let's see how many we can take. So let's start with the first one here. I'll just shortly share the English translation also for a couple of us. जग में बैरी कोई नहीं जो मन शीतल होए, यह आपा तो डाल दे दया करे सब कोई. So it appears to me the English translation would be, no one would appear like your enemy in this world if your mind is clear and calm and silent. यह आपा तो डाल दे दया करे सब कोई. So if you offer this I-ness, this me-ness, me and my story, if you offer or swaha this I-ness to the fire, although there is no mention of fire, dalde means you have given the ahuti of that. Once you offer me and my story to this sacred fire, it appears that everyone is being very, very kind and compassionate to you. Yeah. So, yeh apa to dal de, daya kare sab koi. So let us take a pause and then share our reflections on this.
Monica, is there a way to post the English in the chat, or did you just say that verbally?
Actually, I just translated it myself. I did not find any English translation at a, like a cursory search. Shall I say it again? Or shall I maybe type it?
Yeah, just say it again, okay. Please. Thanks.
So the first line, Jag mein bairi koi nahi. No one would be your enemy. No one would appear like your enemy. No situation, no happening would appear like your enemy. If your mind is simple, lucid and transparent, jo man sheetal hoye, if your mind is cool, calm, yeh apa to dal de. Give away the ahuti of your story, me and my story, my demand, my expectations. Yeh apa is me and minus in my life. Yeh apa to dal de, which we also call as ego. Yeh apa to dal de, daya kare sab koi. Once you offer away this me and minus from your life, then it appears that the whole universe is very compassionate.
So from this it appears that our personal self, which sees only differences, which sees mine and thine and this sort of a differentiation, This seems to be the formidable block, a boulder in our way. It looks like it.
I think it will also connect to what in the beginning you were sharing, Ram Prakash ji, the sun being there, but a wall being here, which is not letting the sun illuminate everything. Yeah.
When you said that, when you offer it to the fire kind of a thing, we all have this tendency when people are living, we have these differences and, the hatred, dislike, like all ego. Whereas I've always noticed when someone passes away is the time when everyone says nice things about them and you think, oh, did he even like that person, because when they were living, they couldn't get along. And probably you realize it too late that they say the soul comes and sees, right? When you leave the world, probably then the soul realizes, unfortunately too late, that there was no enemy as such. It was just your mind that probably created that illusion. And
beautiful. Thank you.
So here he's speaking of sacrificial offering into the fire. Sacrificial offering into the fire. Sacrificial offering. Offering what? Self-regard, pride, expectations, hate, revenge, selfishness. These have to be offered as sacrificial offerings into the fire. Fire of what? Fire of knowledge, fire of conviction. I think that's what Gandhi experimented with this. Mahatma Gandhi was so exact. He experimented with it. And there's another very nice devotional book which speaks of the path that leads to enlightenment. It says on that path, the aspirant has no enemies. And it says there is no enemy, there is no friend, all are your teachers. It says that. And it further says that the sin and shame of the world is your sin and shame. That means you cannot separate yourself from your fellow man. The self is to be realized, the self is all, not individual. So, the more the realization of this in terms of strong conviction, less selfishness and more altruistic motive takes hold of the person.
Yeah, for me, this was really, really beautiful, and I have not come across this before. I feel for me it kind of catches the root of my life. How I always want to blame it on others. How I always say that, everything around me or so much around me is wrong and how I am right? Like, this person did this, or the weather is bad, or my, city is too polluted, or like everything is outside of me. And I am kind of, poor me is struggling and is trying to make a good life for me and, others around me. And here Kabir says that there is no enemy, right? Like if there is peace, and if there is, I don't know, Shitalta could be Samta, peace, equanimity, right? If there is peace within me, if I'm calm within, then all this would just vanish, right? I will be able to see clearly my truth and my life. And whatever that everybody is doing would feel like, oh, thank you. You are also making me stronger, or, you are trying to help me with this thing that I'm not good at. Like, if somebody is making me angry, it's like, I just find that so annoying. Like, why can't that person just be better? But how about me, right? Because I will be answerable for myself. So in a way, the whole world is doing me a favor if it's a kind of opposing me. So it's very, very, two lines and kind of the whole, chalaki of my being is kind of symbolized here, I feel.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chikiji, you wanted to share? You had unmuted. Yeah.
I think this apa is the ego, obviously. And just as Taru was sharing just now, that everything that really comes to us is for us to learn from. And it's really our responsibility. It's like, one of Kabir's duas where he says, "Si so tare bhui dhare." It's like, take off that ego. Everything that we find against us is actually our ego telling us that not happening our way. And everything that we come across in life is really to teach us to put that apa away. Anyone who doesn't agree with us is, of course, becomes a prompt enemy. And it's that we really need to give up.
Yeah, beautiful. It's really amazing how we try so hard, banging our heads on the walls all the time. And then we actually realize, once we turn within, that there was no wall out there. I was the wall myself. Yes, Unniji, please share.
To me, it looks like the extension of what we discussed in the previous poem, Tagore's translation, where he says that what you're seeking is within you and not outside. And if it is within me, it is also within others around me. So if there is a bairi, if I'm seeing a bairi in somebody else, I'm actually looking at the enemy within. So there is nothing besides you. Everything is part of God. If you're taking the idea of God, then if he is part of everything and everyone around, including me. That clarifies the point very clear. Then nothing more to discuss there, because then there is no question of finding an enemy somewhere else, because then you're finding an enemy. You are your own enemy. So that idea of enmity ends there. Therefore, yes,
very
also
very nice, very nice, very nice.
And that is also the question of when you get rid of the ego, you can almost reach there. So that's what it is.
There seems to be another point here to add to this Sugri Krishna's law of karma. If someone hurts me, it is not a accidental thing. If there is animosity between me and another, it is not something that is accidental, that has somehow come about. No, it is a past history. So the hurt that comes to me from whatever source is the hurt which I myself caused by my own thought and action at some point of time. The agency from which the hurt comes is only instrument. So whatever misfortune that I may have to face in life, or persecution, or slander, or injustice meted out to me, I say to myself, the law of cause and effect. I take the responsibility for it. This is what I myself desire. Because our vision does not go beyond this small little life from cradle to grave. But if self is eternal, and it has had numerous lives on earth and created numerous causes and effects of which brings about rebirths. Then, whatever is happening in my life is absolutely just, and they are my teachers, and from them I must learn. So the one who hurts me, in this perspective, I can have no animosity towards him. I must thank him. I'll be thankful to him. And not only will I have no revengeful feelings towards him, but recognizing the same self in him, recognizing the fact that hand that smites me in my own, not any other, I will try to do something good in return. I think this is properly would be practice of yoga.
The other piece I really appreciated about this was the reminder that what I'm holding, for me, these two lines are totally apply to a personal situation that's been going on for about the last 24 hours. And I see the animosity, the resentment, the anger, the hurt, that to offer it into the sacrificial fire, that piece being, volitionally, that is for me to do and be willing, to actually offer and to drop it. Because otherwise I realize I kind of wait for it to go, it's like I'm holding on to it at the same time, waiting for God or waiting for, time to take it away, but to actually take that very active step to offer it up. And then the other piece was that first line about when the mind is quiet, and that equality or samatha, realizing that when I'm holding on to this me, my, I story and, them against me, or they hurt me, they did wrong to me, that feels so bodily in my muscles and in my cells, like so much tension and contraction. And as soon as the reminder comes that it's when the mind is quiet, it's like the entire body settles, and that facilitates this becoming a witness or becoming awareness, so that the other doesn't feel like something so separate and so far away. So yes, beautiful. And I agree with a lot of what's been shared, and Taru saying that these two lines seem to sum up everything, all stresses and all situations and how to handle them. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Mother and Sri Aurobindo say that since all this creation is based on love and freedom, that's why this free will comes into picture. I think, Swapna, you were pointing at this free will, that it's volitionary. I have to do it. Whenever I feel ready, I have to offer. And this ego is something that one fine day, I cannot say that I have now become egoless. And that's why you all were, sharing the beauty of all these hurts that people may give me, because that just tells me that ego is still here. The ego is still there. And a lot of work is to still be done. So that's really beautiful, that how all these triggers, which earlier appear like enemies, can actually become a help once I take this responsibility and onus on my own self, that yes, if a trigger is able to hurt me, then definitely it's the task of me identifying with the ego, and ego being in operation. And that's where once I feel ready, I do this volitionary act of offering my ego again and again, and yet again, like a never ending process of this lifelong, almost yagna going on, because ego is something which just pops up at any point whenever we may be feeling that, okay, now it appears like for 1 year, I've been really hurt free, and poop, there it comes again. So such is the quality of this thing. It's very interesting thing that it appears that it is dead, but it is not. In one of the other couplets, Kabir says, मन को मृतक जान के मत कीजे विश्वास, साधु तब तक भय करे जब तक पिंजर में सांस. So he says, don't think that the ego or the mind is dead, because a true sadhak on the path will be very, very vigilant, and as long vigilant as long as he has breath in his body. So that's why we say this is a lifelong of a journey of again and again offering all our hurts, all our, I think Ram Prakash ji was saying something on what to offer, what all to offer. So anything that sticks to me, that becomes a load of the mind, even pride and appreciation can become the load on the mind. It hampers with our simplicity. So all that burdens me, all that sticks me, has to be offered again and again in this fire of life. And then everything appears like a help, as you all were sharing, that every trigger, everyone annoying me now appears like a help, because it just tells me that there is a work to be done. There is a work to be done. Yeah? So the onus comes on to me, and that gives me a lot of power actually. Once I take the responsibility of my own happiness to, give it to my own self, I really feel as if from powerless, I have now reclaimed back my power and responsibility. Yeah, anything more on these two lines? I think after that we can end it. Also, I was connecting these two lines. I think the connection has already been done, just kind of regurgitating about it. So, jo man sheetal hoye and yeh apa to dal de. So it was also connecting like this, that all that pollutes my mind, all that takes away the sanity of my mind, is this apa, which in other words we call as the ego. Me and my story, my expectations, my demands, my sense of lack. So all that pollutes, if I can be aware of that pollution, it's only the pollution of the ego. So if I can just kind of with my will, I can chuck away that pollution and keep the room neat and clean, again, a lifelong process, because the room will become dirty again and again. So if this process can go on forever, this neti, again and again, I think that also brings a lot of strength, calm, and what you were talking of, samta and peace and stillness in the mind. And whatever done is work, whatever work is done through peace and equanimity, it is a good work. It would be a right kind of work. So again, in two lines, we have almost a mantra for a lifetime. Yeah. So anything more, anyone? Okay, so I assume there is nothing more to be shared. So let's call it a session here, and thank you everyone for very actively sharing, joining, and contemplating on these lines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.